We have Maryland alum Tim Kurkjian of ESPN Baseball Tonight on again, joining us for the second time. Thanks for coming back, Tim.
My pleasure, fellas. How you doing?
We're doing well, getting ready to move past the steroids, and we're going to try and avoid that whole chat and get on to actual baseball and the World Baseball Classic, if that's all right.
Anything's better than steroids, believe me.
My first question is, with the World Baseball Classic picking up in the next day or so, some people are hesitant to really get on board with the competition because it may be too early or lack of stars. What do you look forward to seeing in the WBC, and what could baseball do to maybe improve it a little bit?
Well, I'm not sure there's really a way to improve it right now. I just don't think there's a good time to do a tournament like this. You know, this isn't basketball where you can take 3 weeks off and come back and LeBron James scores 30 points. It doesn't work that way in baseball. A starting pitcher can't take a month off and then go out and throw 9 innings without any problem. It doesn't work that way. What I'd like to see more of is more players agreeing to play. But I certainly understand that teams don't want their guys to play for the most part. I mean, I wouldn't want my star pitcher to leave my team for a month and go pitch on a schedule he's not used to pitching at this time of year. So I'm hoping this tournament catches on and it works. But, you know, you look how many players from all countries have dropped out already. I think it's going to water down the tournament a little bit. And the other hope is that the United States maybe gets into it a little bit more this time around. Clearly, the other teams were more interested in playing than the U.S. team was the last time. With Davey Johnson as the manager, I can promise you the intensity level will go up significantly.
And Tim, as you mentioned, the pitchers, a lot of them, might not be getting the necessary work. And for starters like Orioles' Jeremy Guthrie, he probably could really benefit from an extra 4 weeks in camp where he's around pitching coaches all the time because he's not necessarily, at the top of his game, barely, not even out of his arbitration years. He's still a young guy in the league. Is there a tentative agreement with the World Baseball Classic and the USA team and other countries that they'll get a lot of work and a lot of one-on-one time with the pitching coaches during this time to help supplement what they're missing in spring training? Or are these guys just out there playing, just as a regular team and are going to have to work on their mechanics themselves?
Well, I think there's always somebody there to help a guy with mechanics. Problem is that every pitching coach has a different way of doing things. So if Jeremy Guthrie is indeed fouled up on a certain level and he asks the pitching coaches for the WBC, hey, fix me on this, not everyone's going to fix him the same way. I mean, he might fix him for the better, who knows? But if the pitching coach for the Orioles isn't looking at it that way, he may come back and say, what happened to you? So in the end, I think most of these guys are just going there to play. Fortunately, most of them are so far into their careers that they don't need a pitching coach, they don't need a hitting coach. They know what they're doing. But you're right. There are some young guys who are there who are probably saying, "Wow, I could use a hand here," and doesn't always work out perfectly that way.
Tim, I think a couple of the more intriguing things with the World Baseball Classic is seeing things like Derek Jeter scrimmage against the Yankees, or seeing David Wright play third base against his division rival, or playing next to his division rival Jimmy Rollins, or his AL rival Derek Jeter. What are some other intriguing things that you can take away just from a matchup kind of perspective with all these kind of countries coming together to put this tournament together?
Well, that Jeter thing was really hard to believe that he was playing against the New York Yankees, and even he said he got close to running into the Yankee dugout a couple times. I found it a little bit unusual that he's throwing the ball from shortstop over to Kevin Youkilis at first base, and we know there's no love lost between the Yankees and Youkilis and vice versa. But there are a lot of things like that going on out there, and that's one of the really cool things about this is that it involves players from so many teams and so many different countries, and, it can cause all sorts of problems. I mean, already A-Rod has said something to the effect of, wouldn't it be great if we had Jose Reyes from the Dominican team on our team hitting leadoff and playing shortstop every day, which apparently wasn't real cool when he's got when his shortstop is Derek Jeter and his leadoff guy is Johnny Damon. Fortunately, those guys said, oh, it's just A-Rod, as always, saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. But it can lead to all sorts of interesting scenarios. So certainly something we have to keep our eye on.
Tim, Sid here. Now, the new big story in the headlines today is Manny Ramirez finally signing a contract with the Los Angeles Dodgers. Could you just shed some light on his contract terms, and why do you think it took so long for Manny and the Dodgers to work out an agreement?
Well, it took so long for a couple reasons. Scott Boras went into this, the agent for Manny Ramirez, thinking he's going to get 4 years, $100 million, or at least that's what Manny thought. So Boras had to hang on as long as he could, hoping that another team other than the Dodgers got involved. And as it turns out, no other team got involved. So he was down to one club. And even Scott Boras is rarely ever down to one club, and he kept waiting and waiting. And then finally he realized there's not another team that's going to come along in March with $45 million. And this is a pretty good deal for Manny because he gets almost $25 million that first year. And then the second year, he can opt out if he wants to and try to go make even more on the open market. Or he can stay and play for roughly $20 million. So it's a slightly better deal than he got offered 4 years ago. But in many ways, it's the same deal. And it makes you wonder, did they really have to drag us through all this for 4 months when they basically agreed to something similar to what was offered 4 months ago today?
Tim, do you think that this changes the clubhouse's view of Manny Ramirez, or do you still think that they'll, accept him as the player and welcoming arms, just knowing that he's going to be productive?
Yeah, they'll welcome him back. I mean, this is the way it works. There's still 4 or 5 weeks to go in spring training. There's plenty of time for him to get himself in shape. The players are just happy to have the best hitter on their team back in their lineup. Every guy knows on that club that Manny makes them a better team, makes them the team to beat in that division, and he makes them all better hitters with his protection and with his advice. I mean, I talked to a bunch of their young hitters last year, and they all swear by the fact that Manny, believe it or not, his work ethic and just his approach to hitting, they followed that, and they got better at bats because of him. So they're all thrilled to have him back, and they all understand that this is just a business in the end. You're out to get the most money you can. Sometimes that's not an easy thing to do. Sometimes you got to sit out for a while. Exactly what Manny did. No one will begrudge him because they know he's the best hitter on our team.
And Tim, last time we talked, I don't think either of us thought the Phillies were going to be lining up for a World Series run, and I think both of us agreed that it was going to be tough for them to make the playoffs back in September. What do you think the Phillies need to do, and what are their chances of making another run at a World Series title this year and repeating?
Well, I just saw them the other day, and I was real impressed again with their attitude. It should be good now that they're defending world champs, but they didn't just sit around and do nothing. They moved on. They got Raul Ibanez to play left field. Granted, he hits left-handed, replacing Pat Burrell, who hit right-handed, and that's not a good thing for them. But Ibanez hit lefties last year. He's a great clubhouse guy. He's a great teammate. He's a good hitter. He's going to drive in 100 runs. So I think they can get over the loss of Burrell. They got most everything back. And again, their attitude is now, as Jimmy Rollins was saying the other day, look, we got to do more now. If we're ever going to be in these elite teams, we have to win more than once. See, the Phillies just can't win once and expect to be included. We got to do it again. So I was really impressed with what the attitude on that club. And even though the Mets have made a major step forward, assuming Santana is healthy, I still think the Phillies are the team to beat in that division because they have a really good offensive club now that it appears Chase Utley's going to be perhaps ready to go by opening day.
Now, the one team in Major League Baseball that doesn't seem to be affected by the whole economic crisis is the New York Yankees. Obviously, signing big names like Mark Teixeira and CC Sabathia. With these signings and adding A.J. Burnett in the lineup too, getting a healthy Chin-Ming Wong back in the rotation, does that make them the team to beat in the AL East, or is it still Boston's division since the past couple of years? And what about the Tampa Bay Rays this year?